So let's quickly go through the agenda of today. After my short introduction, we will continue with Professor Uwe Sauer. He is a ERC panel member, so we will hear from him a little bit of an explanation of how are the criteria, which are the criteria, and which are the settings from the evaluator's point of view, so inside of the European Research Councils. And then we will continue with our speakers of today. We will follow up with Professor Manuel Perez Garcia. He's here with us from Shanghai, as he is a ERC grantee with the University of Pablo de Olavide, which is in Sevilla in the south of Spain, but also based at Shanghai Jiaotong University. So welcome, Manuel. We will have then a short Q&A session, 10 to 15 minutes, also depending on how we're running in terms of time. So if you have questions, especially for those two speakers who will be the first two ones, you're welcome to do so in this first Q&A session, even if we will have time also at the very end of the webinar, hopefully. Then we will continue with Dr. Han Song-ma. She is an ERC grantee that is based in the UK. She works at Cambridge University and at its Gordon Institute. And then we conclude with the Li Deng. You also already saw all their faces in one of our last videos if you connected a few minutes earlier. Dr. Li Deng is working in Munich at the Helmut Center and the Technical University of Munich. So you're welcome to ask your questions in Chinese or English also during the last Q&A session before we conclude the webinar. You can do so also during the presentation by using the chat box. So if anything raises your curiosity or your interest or doubts during the presentations, send us a message. We will read all your questions at the end during the Q&A session. Okay, so let me quickly introduce EURAXESS and the European Research Council. EURAXESS is a European Commission initiative. It wants to be your gateway to the European Research Area. What is the European Research Area, or ERA? Is an integration basically of all the funding schemes and scientific programs they are offered by the member states of the European Union plus associated countries. So we're talking about more than 40 countries. They are characterized by excellence, creativity, and diversity. Some of the best universities in the world are based in the European Research Area, which is also very complex and vast. So EURAXESS is also meant to help you navigate this diversity. If you want to follow us on WeChat because you find the WeChat very comfortable and convenient way to do so, please scan the QR code. So what does EURAXESS China do? EURAXESS China is the branch of EURAXESS that is based in Beijing already more than 10 years. We help you find the information if you want to move between Europe and China, like the webinars we're doing today and other series of webinars, even focusing on the different European countries. Our jobs portal is a very great place to start if you're looking for a research position, a new job in Europe. You can click on the web link on the bottom of my slide to start looking for that. We help you meet the potential research partners in both countries and also organize events. With 2021, we will have more physical events. So follow us on the social media, subscribe to our newsletter. Again, you can do so by clicking on the web page, and so you will be updated. And in case there's anything you are interested in, then you can join for free. So talking about the European Research Council, it's our topic of today. What is the European Research Council? The ERC is a scientific committee, basically composed of experts, of scientists. Provide grants that are open to any researcher in the world irrespective of the nationality, and based only on the idea, on the research project. If you have a groundbreaking idea, you can apply for an ERC grant in any field of humanities or science, because the selection is made with a bottom-up approach. So there's no predefined topics. There are 4 main funding schemes, depending basically on your experience and the time you spend in research work. The starting grants for those who have from 2 to 7 years experience since the completion of their PhD. Today's ERC grantees all won starting grants. So if you have a specific question, you can direct them to them already. Consolidator grants, following this 7 to 12 years of experience, up to 2 million grant. Advanced grant is for those more recognized researchers which can prove, who can prove a record of achievements. And then the signature grants. This is the only call that won't open in 2021, but is expected to open the year after. For the others, you can find the date of when the calls will open on the right of my slide. The synergy grants are meant for a team of researchers, from 2 up to 4 researchers. And 1 researchers can even be based out of the ERA, out of the European research areas. The opportunities that are specifically for non-ERA researchers are related to the fact that if you are moving from out of the ERA to a European country, European member state or associated countries, you can have an additional fund for your relocation and for the startup. At the same time, a good element is that you can keep your affiliation with the institute you had been working for before. When you apply for an ERC grant, you need to do so in conjunction with an institution based in the ERA, but still you're allowed to work up to 50% of your time in the university you're working for now in China, for example. Also, the team members can be from any country in the world. More information, you can find all the calls and a lot of details as well as support through the websites that are provided here. So I don't want to take more time to our speakers who are going to provide the most interesting information today. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll gladly leave the floor to Professor Sauer.
Hello. Hi, my name is Uwe Sauer. I'm a trained biologist. Systems biology is what I'm doing now. I was for many years a member of the ERC panel for genomics and systems biology, and was also heading that panel for a round. I also am the president of a similar agency here in Switzerland, the ETH Research Commission, where we do interviews and we have research grants. So it's a very, very similar mindset. So I'm speaking from an experience of probably looking at hundreds, well, I know it's been many hundreds of these applications and the interviews that come with it. So I will try to give you a little bit of a view from the other side, because I think it's important to understand the process. And the first is, what is an ERC grant? I think you should almost forget the grant idea. This is not just a normal grant that you get. It's almost like a reward, not a reward for what you've done, but what you plan to do. And that's really important. This is not just a normal grant. This is just the very best and the most exciting and daring researchers that should get it. And that's also the mindset of us that are reviewing this. Okay, so your idea has to be out of the box. It shouldn't be something that also others are doing and maybe could be doing just as well. Somehow you have to make it clear, how is that could that be a breakthrough? It can fail, that's okay. The ERC is willing to take risks. It's not critical like the NIH, for example, in the US. They want you to almost have done half of the work. For the ERC, that is not necessary. We are willing to take risks. So it has to be high risk, but of course doable in some way. Then if you have this mindset that you really wanted to try something big and original, who are the people that will look at it? And of course, there's two types of people. There will always be some external reviewers, because all these proposals are sent out to, typically we have 5, sometimes 8 external reviews. These will be experts from your area, all over the world. And they will look at some of the details. But the group that makes a decision is this ERC panel in a particular area. And this panel is typically composed of, I don't know, around 12 or so members from all different European countries. They're gender mixed, they are mixed in terms of their expertise. There might be computational people together with experimentalists. And they all are good scientists. And they all have the same goal. That's why they're at the ERC. They want to find in a huge number of applications the best ideas. And you can imagine it. I'm not sure how important soccer is in China, although I know it is in quite some way. But imagine you're the head of Barcelona and you're going to the middle school and you're looking for the starter grants, for the ones that have the highest potential. Of course, there are hundreds and thousands of kids, but you want to have the best ones, the ones that have the most potential. And so this is the mindset that we have. Not that we view you as kids, but we really look at the potential that someone has. We would like to see exactly what Anna said before, that in the pot of people that we collect afterwards, or the ones that we pull out of the pot, that there will be some that are at the level of a Nobel laureate. Not that we're looking for the Nobel laureates necessarily, but the potential. This is really important. That's the mindset that we have. And that's how we look at all of your proposals. Okay? So we're actually very nice people. We usually have a lot of fun. This is not a dark, sinister group of people that is sitting there with a butcher knife. We really have a very, very positive view on everything. But you have to help us that your proposal gets a chance. And that's what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. And you need to understand what the process is. Of course, there's 2 levels. The first is when we get all the applications. This can be several hundreds in a given panel. That means that each one of us has to look at 20 to 30 proposals, something on this order, sometimes even more. And in this first round, we will all look at these proposals. We have some initial ranking and we all have our individual views. And then we go to Brussels, or at least when traveling was still possible. And we sit in a room for 2 or 3 days and discuss amongst us for every single proposal, where is it? And sometimes, you can imagine that someone has a different ranking matrix, that for someone the best is a little bit lower than for someone else. And so we discussed and we spent a lot of time to make a relative arrangement of the proposals. And the top ones are then invited for a second round. And since we are not experts on every single aspect in any of these panels, or in all of these panels, so we always ask for external reviewers. Okay, and so there is, when you write something, you have to keep in mind that you want to have something that's detailed enough for some colleagues that are really in your field. And at the same time, you need to be able to convincingly explain what the cool stuff is that you're doing and how you plan to do it to a broader group of scientists that will have to make the decision. Of course, we look back. At what the external reviewers say, and we are not overruling them. If they say this is not possible, or this makes absolutely no sense, or it has been done 15 times before, then this very much lowers the chances. But we will interpret what the external reviewers say. Sometimes they say, oh, it's very important that there is already preliminary data of one type of another, and we try to make a judgment if that is maybe not absolutely necessary. So in this process, for the first round already, you have to understand that with 12, 15 people in the room that will all contribute, in the end, it is the group that makes the decision. It's not an individual. Your proposal will be handed to 2 or 3, it depends a little bit on the panel, of these internal members. They will read your proposal, and they will also interpret what the external reviewers say. And then when we meet in Brussels, those three, one of them will be sort of, we call this the lead reviewer. He will start, or she will start and say, okay, this proposal is about this and this, and it is a breakthrough because of this, and it has high impact, it's beyond the state of the art, all of these things, and they will give their arguments. And then the other two reviewers come in, and then the whole panel will start to ask questions. But it's really important that you understand, you need to convince these three colleagues that are really reading it in detail, but you also have to provide them with the arguments, because they all ask the same questions. And one of the typical questions is, okay, why will this person be successful? Why is that so extraordinary? I'm just saying something that often happens, or why just another biomarker research? Or why just look at something that many others are already doing? You need to provide the arguments, because otherwise you have to rely on these panel reviewers to sort of find it somewhere in your proposal. Okay, so once the first round is over, we select the top percentage, typically I think 2 times as much as we can possibly fund. So this is already a very strict selection. And out of those, then you are invited to Brussels or these days it's, I actually don't know, because I'm not on the panel right now anymore. Probably now it is by Zoom. So you're invited to give a short presentation in front of the panel. At least this is for the starting and for the consolidators. This is where I was active. For the advanced, this is different. You give a short presentation, and then there will be 15-minute question and answers. And it's the same logic, but now it really goes into, now we need to probe how good your understanding is, how good your ideas are. And the most typical problems come that a proposal is too in the key points, not too specific. And I try to give you some examples. So if you are very strong on some experimental method in biology, this happens a lot, where young colleagues or applicants are very good with a particular technique. They work with this technique, and data come out, and one can imagine that something interesting comes out, but you don't really quite know. And then there is, at the end, there's a section that says, oh, and we're going to use computational methods, or to make it worse, we're going to use machine learning. And that's the end. And that's not a proposal. To just say, oh, we're going to use computational method, or we're going to integrate the data, that's just not a plan. You need to say how. Most proposals fail at the scientific feasibility because it's not clear how something could be done. And you need to explain a little bit how could these computational methods actually be used. The same is true when you just say, I'm going to use this technique, some cool microscopy of some type, could be astrophysics, could be in biology, something in chemistry. But if you just say, I'm going to use this technique, and then some miracle will happen and something cool comes out. The miracle is what we don't believe. You need to sort of show us a way, at least a plan of a way, and how specifically you could learn. What would you need to see in the data to find something really interesting? And how would you then know it is interesting? How would you know you're actually successful? So these are the kind of questions that we are dealing with. And these are the most important decision factors when it comes to the actual scientific feasibility. Because there's 2 parts. The first part is really, is it breakthrough enough? Is it out of the box? Is it high risk enough? Many proposals are, but then they also need to be scientifically feasible. And we discuss this a lot. We take a lot of time, and we try to even take the benefit of doubt. If someone is very young, for example, a starting grant, we don't expect starting grant applicants to have demonstrated everything already. We're very willing to give benefit of doubt. But we give the benefit of doubt to someone who is able to show us already a little bit how would that possibly work. We believe you that if you're the master of some, let's say, microscopy technique, that you can do it. What we want to hear from you is, what in these microscopic images are you going to use afterwards to do what? And then how are you going to prove, maybe it's a mechanism, a new drug, whatever it is that you're interested in. Okay, So I think I actually want to stop here because we're a little bit over time already, and we can then, you can ask me now. Well, I think we just go on with the next person and then we ask questions afterwards. But it's the message I wanted to leave is you have to think big. This is not just an application that you just try. This is very selective, not just, but selective for potential. For potential in you. We want the new stars of the next generations. And I think you should be, if you start writing it, you should already be proud of yourself. That you're daring to write something like this. That's the right mindset. I hope you have now an understanding that the group of people that looks at this are very positive thinking scientists that come in general from your area, and they want the best. They're almost, well, I don't want to say we're like parents, but we want to find the best in a group. Look at this as trainers, but we have to make a selection before we assemble our team. That's what we're trying to do. And I hope I've been able to show you a little bit how the process works so that you can anticipate a bit on how to write this. And I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you. It was quite interesting, and also I would like to add that also like your very friendly way of talking to us, I think would make candidates very, very comfortable in applying and also in getting ready for a possible interview. So thanks a lot for your presentation. I'm sure I can see that also through my camera. We already, I think, have questions for you, but let's continue according to our schedule. So we go to Professor Manuel Perez Garcia.
Okay, hello, hello Anna, hello everybody. Let me first share my PPT with you. Okay. Can you see the PPT?
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I mean, I must thank again Anna and also Haldor for the nice invitation as usual. And I'm very, very glad that EURAXESS is keeping so much active for these initiatives. And actually, this is going to be my first recommendation for potential applicants. Please, everybody, follow EURAXESS because, you know, since I arrived to China in 2011, so it really helped me a lot to learn not only about how to apply for an ERC grant, but basically how to efficiently develop my academic network. And actually, that is one of the main issues when you're preparing your proposal. I will come to this detail later. Okay, so very quickly, because I think I only have 10 minutes for my presentation. I actually based my presentation in 3 big issues. So if time allows, I will try to cover everything, but if not, I will randomly cover the many important aspects. Actually, the first one I would like to comment is about precisely what Professor Uwe Sauer, excuse me by my pronunciation of your name, is precisely how to think, because this is very key important, how to think out of the box to prepare your proposal, to make your proposal and project significant. Later, I will give you also, according to my experience, some description about the project, potential results, and of course, it is important, as I mentioned, how you prepare your academic network. Let me go first to how to prepare your proposal, because this is the most important issue for the applicants. Again, allow me to highlight these issues. Open access, scientific values based on interdisciplinary work, and again, thinking out of the box and put on highlight innovative ideas and concepts, which again, you should somehow get out of your comfort zone in the work you have previously done to prepare or to develop new research beyond incremental research. And actually, I say incremental because this is one of the key words used by evaluators of your work. Allow me to go quickly. Thanks to you. Again, important thing here, I put briefly the first presentation I made of my ERC grant in the Xuyahui campus of Shanghai Autonomous University with the help of the EU delegation and EURAXESS China. This is also the first presentation I made in Beijing when the ERC current president, Professor Jean-Pierre Boucugnon, came to apply to give a talk about the cooperation between the ERC and scientific institutions, bodies of China. And again, the key concept, get out of the incremental research, forget about linear model of innovation, and be focused on interdisciplinary research, connecting with other fields out of other areas out of your field. And basically the main issue that is quite interesting and very important for panelists and actually for the ERC and the EU Commission, that's why they are funding with huge money these projects, is how your knowledge, how your project is gonna be, could be transferred not only to scientific communities, but to society in general. And for this particular aspect, the open access is very important. And the output and also outreach activities that you also make a plan for your work. Okay, so how to apply for an ERC grant? My grant, actually Anna explained you in detail this slide about the different programs. My program is the starting grant, which is actually for promising early career researchers from 2 to 7 years experience after the PhD. You should go in detail to the ERC website, which should be your Bible. And the most important thing for this is the experience from the ERC grantee, it's me, preparing your project in advance, read it to submission, and also be aware about the 2 steps. Step 1, which is actually, it is the first one, the reviewers will not read your complete 10, 15 pages of your project description. They will read your title of your project, that should be very appealing. The acronym, which is something, could you think, guys, that should be something a very minor detail, but it makes a sense because it is the first thing that evaluators will read, and you should make it attractive, the acronym. And they will read the abstract and the 5 short pages, which is a short description of the project. So you should make it very appealing because non-expert in your fields will read first this proposal, and then later, if you pass the first threshold, you will be invited for an interview in Brussels. Again, the website should be your main Bible for the guidelines to prepare your project. Objectives, you might demonstrate that you are an independent researcher, which means that you are not doing research for somebody else, for a senior scholar behind the scenes. So you need to be the principal investigator and demonstrate groundbreaking nature, ambition, and feasibility of your proposal, which is actually what Professor EURAXESS mentioned, in which no matter what fancy method you are using, but you need to demonstrate why and how you are using this method. Again, this is also the description for a ERC grantee investigator. Again, this also shows something important, not decisive, but important, the early achievement track records. Again, the evaluators will see your potential. This doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mean that before you apply, you need to have published a lot of books, monographs, but you need to see, actually the evaluators will see the track record that you have already achieved, and that there is a progressive, let's say, development in the accomplishment of your early career, which means that don't necessarily need that you have to publish 5 SSC articles after your PhD, but mainly, precisely, maybe 1 or 2, but could be high quality in a very key journal. These little things would be highly appreciated by the evaluators. Actually, this is an example of my early career. Actually, until now, I'm tenure track associate professor at Shanghai Autonomous University. But when I applied to the ERC grant, I was based as an associate professor at Renmin University in China. So since I arrived in 2011 to China, I built up over time this growing career, which actually I didn't have any blank year in my, so that is also something very important. Your international profile, these are the monographs and books I published before applying to the project. some SSCI articles. And the most important thing, and another important detail, is that you have to spend 50% of your time in Europe, of your host institution. You must carefully choose your host institution and spend there 50% of the time that you will dedicate to the project. And you need to justify this in a very detailed plan scheme that you will present in your project. This, I mean, I'm based in China, my work is in China, but the host institution, again, it is the place you choose. You can choose any place in Europe, but it's the place you choose to host your project. That doesn't mean that you are working in, let's say, in two places. It means that you are choosing a host place for the management of your project. The time you will dedicate to it, it is up to you, but you need to justify this in your project. Preparing your project in advance, this is very important. Avoid hasty preparation, innovation, interdisciplinary ideas, and your own ideas. That is very important. Thinking out of the box and prepare a very accurate plan in parallel of the main ideas of the project, which should be groundbreaking nature, address important challenges in your project, novel concept. Again, this is very important, don't be afraid or use new concept. I mean, this ERC, as you can see, you know, some of them has the potential or has been nominated for Nobel Prizes. But as Professor you saw, it means that, no, I mean, this doesn't mean that everybody will be a Nobel Prize, but you need to be ambitious in your project. And why not think about that you could be potentially a Nobel Prize. It doesn't mean that in a very arrogant way that you will be a Nobel Prize. It means that you need to, let's say, sky is the limit, and you need to be really ambitious, modest, but ambitious in your field, addressing new and challenging concepts and ideas, and make it also feasible according to the time scale and methodology that you will use. Very quickly, this is the outlook of the proposal when you are submitting it, the A1 and B1 part. And here you have, in this slide, the evaluation process that I explained before, in which excellence is the criterion. So think out of the box. Again, I would never be tired of repeating this. Think out of the box and make the impossible, make it possible. This is when I went myself to the interview in Brussels. And this is actually how you can see the success rate is 10%. So it means that this is a very big deal. And well, I will slightly, I think I have maybe 3-4 more minutes. Anna?
If we can make it 2, that would be great.
Okay, I will make 2 minutes very quickly about to see concretely my proposal, my project when I apply. My project was the acronym GESEN, Global Encounters between China and Europe, is trade networks between China and Europe, precisely with a concrete case study in which, in a very global framework, because my field is global history, is with a concrete case study, how you present your work, which basically in a very general framework, my work is about the refreshing, developing the idea of the Great Divergence, which means the economic development in a very global scale from Qing Dynasty until today, between China and Europe, precisely between South China and Mediterranean Europe from Qing Dynasty, and how the economic development and international relation in a very general way between China and Europe was working. And this leads me to the idea about interdisciplinary, which interdisciplinary element I use in my project, which is basically use digital science, digital tools and humanities. Digital humanities would mean we are dealing a new database apply for the cross-referencing different sources in Chinese, as you can see here, sources in European languages and Chinese. And this, you made this very general database according, you had to explain the method and how this method is feasible according to your research question. So this is very important. So a database like here I'm presenting, or any method you are using, it is not the goal itself. Again, it's a mean to achieve your goal, which means that always you have to bear in mind your question and research hypothesis. This is very important. So basically, this is, you need to explain the novelty and impact of your project and how your project apply to understand current world issues, to find potential solution, and even to predict problems within a very interdisciplinary scope. So let me again, I will present you in the last minute, you know, the potential issues in my project, which is the main results, publishing 4 SSCI papers at the moment, using this database methodology, arranging special issues in Cambridge University Journal to present the current results. And actually, I'm happy to share with you this new monograph I just published. Actually, it came out last week, which, as you can see, there are many interdisciplinary ideas because I deal with global history, the so-called Chinese characteristics, to understand international relations and current politics, but how this applies to Qing China 200 years ago, to analyze and understand the narratives of the economic development and political institutions, international relations between China and Europe. So basically, I think I should stop here. To know more about my project, again, you are very welcome to visit the website of my GESEM project, and very importantly, develop a network. Also make a very website very appealing and very cool, and that also applies for your application. Make your own academic website feasible, because you need to make visible your work and your results. So I think that I should stop here, otherwise I will take all time. Thank you for the patience, and I'm very willing to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Manuel. It was very interesting. I think your presentation and your presence here is especially interesting for those who might think of, keeping an affiliation with a Chinese university when applying for an ERC grant that would bring them to Europe. Anyway, so let's move to the Q&A session. First of all, I would like to ask if anyone among the participants would like to ask his or her question directly to the speakers. So I could unmute anyone who would like to ask directly the question. So you can directly ask to one of the speakers that already presented now.
If anybody wants to ask questions, just say yes. There's like a button that says yes or no. No need to say no, but
while people are thinking, maybe I can answer one of the questions from the chat, because it's easier to answer it in person. The question always comes up: how important are the previous papers? In natural science, it's always the question, if I don't have a nature or a science paper, is it even worse to apply? My answer always is, it helps. Certainly it's better if you have something in one of these journals, or in biology, in Cell. I'm sure that in physics there are other journals, in chemistry. But what matters is, in none of the panels where I have been present, do we ever count the nature or science papers. We always look for, is someone productive, and are they publishing important work? And so, if you don't have a nature paper, that's fine. That's perfectly okay. And quite often we actually think much more when someone has 2 or 3 nature papers, but the paper has also 30 other authors. Even if you're the first one, it's always difficult to judge how much is it really done by you. So it doesn't matter so much, okay? It matters that you have important papers that do something, that achieved something, and they can be in domain journals. If you have no papers, don't even apply.
Thank you for jumping in. So let's also go through some of the questions we received through the chat box. I see someone was also asking about how the ERC support women in scientific career for applying starting grant, considering maternity leave. I don't know if you want to take this. Otherwise, I think we can directly answer that normally, like all these grants can consider a possible maternity leave. So women are very welcome to apply, and in general, all these grants are also trying to support the gender empowerment. So you are allowed to take a maternity leave during your grant.
And we of course consider it in the application. If someone has a child or two, then we try to factor this in, that of course that person we need to, for a starter, for example, then typically you have 2 years less. And so we try to factor this in as much as it is possible.
Okay, so let's go through this other question. Has a postdoc, so non-independent researcher, is it possible to apply for the starting grant? Manuel Perez Garcia highlighted that you should prove that you are independent.
Maybe I can answer this because we have that case very often. Most of the starters, or many of them are postdocs. So it's not a problem. You can. Of course, you need to somehow have a convincing application that it makes clear how you will become independent. Many already have a junior PI position, but as a postdoc, you can absolutely apply. You just have to make it very clear. How would you, once you have your own lab, where's the expertise and how do you deal with all of this? You need to explain it a little bit better than someone else who has already a running group, but it happens. It's not a problem.
Great. I think there's another question that could go to you, Uwe. Someone is asking about risk evaluation. So is it a problem if 2 aspects of the proposal are risky? And this person is saying, so both conceptual and methodological parts.
There's no perfect, firstly, it's not a problem, and there's no general answer. In the end, we always try to think ahead. Okay, we give the money, a substantial amount of money, 2 million on this order, depending on what grant it is. We give that to someone. Now they have this money, they hire people. And if your most risky thing is the first thing, let's say you propose to put together an instrument, but that has never been assembled. And if it doesn't work, your whole project doesn't work. So then we need a little bit more evidence that this could actually work. But if it is, risk can be in many different parts, but then you have to think of, okay, what am I gonna do if something doesn't work? We call this a contingency plan. You have to somehow be convincing that you're mature enough in your thinking that you would know if something doesn't work, what will I do? And to even acknowledge that a plan inherently has issues that it might not work. So that you need to explain. And we are all experienced scientists, so we can look into things and we can immediately see, that's risky. But if you tell us, in case this doesn't work, we're gonna do this, then you have us on your side.
Okay, and then to make everybody realize that European research grants are really very valuable, I would like to let Manuel ask Uwe a question.
Thanks. Well, as you know, I myself starting grantee, and my project will finish in 2021. So, and according to to my officer in Brussels and the rules, so I know I'm aiming to apply for a consolidator grant. So my question is, how different should be your new proposal? Or could be, there's not any point to be a continuation, which means that the results that you have not been able to achieve, or new results, or let's say new technologies, methodologies that you have envisioned during these 5 years, you can be implemented in the consolidator grant. Just to give you a hint, I already made a prototype of the database, but I would make it much better because I didn't have much time for this in the ERC grant, starting grant, because actually that was not the main objective. And secondly, I will use big data analysis, which will go for interdisciplinary. So again, how different should be, because I have also heard from other consolidator grantees that when they were starting grantees, actually, you know, the project is being almost identical.
So I can't really judge for all the different panels. There might be slightly different strategies, and maybe not strategies, but the consideration of what is different is not exactly the same in different fields. But the general answer is it should not just be a continuation of your project. If it's, you know, or maybe to just finish something that you haven't finished in the first round, that's not the idea. Okay. But if you have a challenge that is still a big challenge, just make it clear what the new dimension is. This is the most successful strategy. And nobody expects any ERC grantee to change their research field just because, so that they get now the next level of a grant. But you have to make it clear what the new dimension is. What is the new problem? Maybe before possibly in your case, I'm trying to interpret, before you looked at something smaller, now you look at the big picture. That comes with different problems and different challenges. And at the end of the day, you don't want to twist yourself too much just to be able to be eligible if you have a really good idea and a research plan. At the end, we want to fund the best researchers with the best ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you. I say we have 1 minute for one last question, because there's Yin Bao who would like to ask directly a question. So let's give this person the opportunity before we continue. You are unmuted, so you're welcome to ask the question directly now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity and also the great information and the presentation. So I'm more concerned about this consolidated grant. So I want to know what's the requirement for the profile to apply for the consolidated grant. So should the applicant must be the with already established the researcher profile with a very high high level publications and also the high financial in the bank grant.
Sounds like this is directed to me. Maybe I can say something. Yeah. The word says it really. There needs to be something that can be consolidated. So there needs to be some demonstration that you have. For a starter, we don't, that's why postdocs can apply. They cannot have possibly demonstrated independence yet if they are still postdocs, but they're eligible. So there we go more by the proposal. For a consolidator, we look more, we also look now, but stronger than before, at the CV. And if, for example, as a consolidator, if you only published mostly as a middle author or mostly as a first, well, I have to be careful, but in biology, if you're only the first author and not, it looks like you're still like sort of an advanced postdoc, and that's not the idea. But if you've demonstrated, and again, we're not counting the Nature papers, but you need to show that you were successful with your group, and now you're consolidating and going into a direction. So it matters a bit more, the CV.
So if I have the publication and myself and the senior authors for like, I don't know, is there a requirement for the number, or
there is no specific number, and that changes with the field. In social sciences, it's very different from astrophysics, obviously. But I think within a certain field, we have some idea what is a successful CV. And but no one counts the papers, but there needs to be something.
Yeah, so it also then require the position. It should be a tenured professor or like a non-tenured research position.
As far as I know, the ERC does not care if it's tenured or non-tenured. It just matters that you have a position for the duration of the grant.
Okay, but this is just
different agencies have different constructs. Yeah.
So, but maybe this is just the basic requirement. I mean, if you consider awardees, maybe the level is much higher than this.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend that got the consolidated grant, and he's already one of the leading scientists in the field. So I think it's a...
You're competing with these people, that's true. Of course, it's not, if someone is has already a full established, you know, you can be the head of a huge research institution. If you're young enough, you can still apply for consolidator, of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much for information.
We have been collecting quite a few questions. So thank you for the speakers and thank you for taking the questions. We should now continue with our two other speakers of today, but we will have a longer Q&A session at the end. And also Uwe and Baumann will be here with us. So don't leave us now, but keep your questions for the end. We will continue, and she will have her presentation slide in English, but I think her experience will be shared using Chinese language with Han-Song Ma. Are you here with us, Han-Song?
Yes, hi.
Hello, thank you.
I'm going to share my screen, is that okay?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Is it working? All right.
Well,
is it working?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Right. Hello, everybody. My name is Han-Song Ma, and it's a great pleasure to be here to share my ERC application experience. So as Anna has said, that it's better that I speak in Chinese. So my entire presentation will be in Chinese. But I'll be very happy to go through my slides and also share my experience in English. And you can email me, and I'm happy to provide a one-to-one kind of discussion after today's session. Okay. 大家好，我叫马涵松。今天我很高兴来跟大家分享一下我申请这个 ERC Starting Grant 的一个过程。我先简单的介绍一下我的背景哦，就是我呢，出生在浙江绍兴，当时还是一个小县城，然后一直在那儿生活到了18岁，然后来到了英国，拿到了学士和博士学位，然后去了美国的那个加州大学的旧金山分部呢，做了我的 postdoc training。然后2017年年初的时候呢，我来到了剑桥，然后成立了自己的实验室。我的研究方向呢是基因遗传学。那我当时为什么要申请 ERC 呢？主要原因就是在欧洲呢 ，ERC 是一个很大的 grant。这个不单单是说它的钱比较多，主要还是因为它这个它的 reputation 啊，它的名气也比较大。当时我申请的时候呢，我就申请了1.5个 million 的 euro。但是如果你是从国外来的话，就是 international 的 relocation 的话，你还可以增加到 up to 1 million 的 euro。这个钱比较好，是因为为什么呢？因为它在英国呢有很多 grant， 它是不能support 这个就是 PI 的工资的，但这个 ERC 就可以。所以如果你想在欧洲成立自己的实验室的话，你完全可以用 ERC 的钱来支持自己的工资。这样呢，就是很多的这个 host institute 它会比较愿意 support 你，因为他们不用 cover 你的工资，对他们而言是一个很大的 benefit。还有一点就是你如果要搬到另外一个研究所的话，这个钱也可以跟着你走。最主要的其实不是钱，这个就是说，当然这个 financial support 是 great， 但是呢，它在某种程度上，它会增加你的这个recognition， 特别是对于我们这种比较年轻的这种 PR 而言，他们觉得如果你能够拿到 ERC， 那你就是在你这个 field 里面做的比较好的，或者你的 idea 是比较innovating 的，或者是你有breakthrough。还有一点就是它只要求就是说要大概有50%的时间就是在你的 grant 上面。当时呢，我有另外一个比较大的 grant 是从 Wellcome Trust 拿到的，所以对于我而言，这个就是比较符合我当时的情况。还有一点就是我这个 proposal 等会我会讲到，就是说它这个也比较符合这个 ERC 的这个 high risk high gain 的这个 profile。当时呢，这个 project 并不是我实验室的主线，也不是我们主要的 focus， 它也不是这个 direct spin off of my postdoc work， 所以我的 preliminary data 其实不是很多。但是如果成功的话，它就会 move the field a big step forward， 所以我就觉得这个比较符合这个 ERC 的 profile， 所以我就申请了。我是17年1月份开始的建立自己的实验组，然后是10月份递交了我的这个 application。当时呢，我虽然已经拿到了这个 Welcome Trust 的一个比较大的 grant， 但是我其实没有什么写 grant 的经验，非常的 naive。就像我之前说的，因为这个 project 啊不是我实验室的主线，所以也没有太多的这个 basis。我就是大概从4月份、5月份开始想，我要怎么写这个 proposal， 到底要放什么东西在这个 proposal 里面。然后呢，花了整整的2个月，就是7月和8月，几乎什么都不干，就专门写、专门读、专门写这个 proposal。我不知道别人要花多长时间，但是这个 proposal 是比较长的。它呢，我的那个 Part 1是4页，Part 2是11页，就是 single space 的。特别是就是如果你没有写过这么长的 proposal 的话，我觉得挺费时间的。然后呢，我在那个写之前呢，就是把这个申请的过程都很仔细的读了一遍。比如说我知道有 step 1、step 2有 interview， 然后这个 step 1，如果你的评价比较低的话，你第2年是不能申请的。然后因为它有这个7年的限制嘛，它这个 ERC 的这个 starting grant 有7年的限制。如果你第一步被评价比较差的话，然后你中间得过1年，有些人就到了第2次想再申请的时候就不 qualify 了。所以你知道这些，提前知道这些消息以后啊，就会让你更加认真的来面对这个，来写这个东西，因为你知道如果写的不好哈，你就会失去一次机会，说不定就完全不能申请这个 starting grant 了。然后我们当时所里面有好几个人，他们是申请过 ERC 的，我就他们有些成功了，有些不成功了，我就读了所有的 application， 然后读这些东西其实对我写这个 research part 是没有什么用的。但是它有很多其他乱七八糟的东西，比如说 games resources 他们写这个东西，有些我就可以用过来照抄一下，我觉得帮助特别大。因为其实作为一个 non-native speaker 的话，不是写 scientific 的东西写是比较难的，我个人觉得比较难。所以有那种模板然后你可以就是说稍微知道借鉴一下，还是挺省时间的。然后就像我之前说的，那个 Professor EURAXESS 他也说了。就是 Part 1， 它主要是给 internal 的那个 panel member 看的，然后这个非常重要，因为你只有通过了这个 Part 1， 你才会被 send out， 你的 application 才会 send out for review 嘛，所以你这个 Part 1还是要很认真的面对的。当时我就觉得这个，主要的问题就是这个 application 非常长，就是跟我的那个 Welcome Trust 比起来，那个 Welcome Trust 我只写了4页，它提供的钱是一样多的，但是我这个 ERC 要写15页，所以觉得好费时间啊。感觉要投入很多的，比一般性其他的 grant 要投入更多的这个精力。然后呢，我还觉得就是要把 Part 1和 Part 2写的不太一样，还是挺难的，因为它这个可能也是我英语不太好吧，就是你同样的东西你用不同的方式写出来，就是挺花我时间的。但是后来觉得想想也没必要，因为很多时候。就是那些人，他们只会读 Part 1和 Part 2，他们不会2个同时读。Part 1主要是给这个 panel member 读的，然后 Part 2呢是给那个 external review 的读的。然后我觉得可能很多 external review 都没有时间来仔细读 Part 2，他们可能就先读一下 Part 1，然后觉得有些 detail 想知道的，然后才会读 Part 2。所以就算你 repeat 了也没有关系，所以大家也不要太纠结。还有一点就是选择你的 panel， 在同一个 field 里面呢，这个它有好多个 panel。然后这个 panel 有些 panel 是特别 competitive 的，像我是做 biology 的，它那个 cell 什么 developmental biology 那个 panel 是非常 competitive 的。所以如果你的 topic 是可以就 fit 其中好几个 panel 的，你就选一个稍微不那么 competitive 的 panel， 然后你的竞争对手就不会那么强悍。还有一个就是它的这个 online 的 submission， 我觉得特别特别不 straightforward， 有些步骤是要这个 host institute 来操作的，我到最后都没有完全搞清楚到底哪些步骤是我来 submit， 哪些步骤是他们来 submit， 所以到最后就是前1-2天我还挺紧张的，我还得确认一下我是不是我自己弄完了 submit 的视频已经完全弄完了。我是那个3月份拿到了interview 的通知，然后 interview 呢是在6月份发生的。所以中间有3个月的时间来给你准备， 这挺好的，因为像我们这种需要去大使馆签证的人呢，这给你充分的时间，让你可以同时拿到签证，然后可以很好的准备你的interview。我拿到这个通知以后呢，当时呢就马上联系了我们剑桥的，他们在前面1年2年之中拿过这个 ERC Starting Grant 的人，我就说能不能跟我分享一下你的经验。然后你可以因为 ERC 它每年都会发表，就是说过去1、2年，就是过去那些年里面拿到过 ERC Starting Grant 的人，他们的project title 和他们是在哪里的，你可以在这个找到。我觉得找一个就是你附近的，然后跟他聊一下会有很大的帮助。我就是从中就觉得学到了很多东西，特别是其中有一个人的 slides 对我的帮助特别大，因为他是做的领域跟我完全不一样，他也是做生物的，但是我一看他的 slides 啊，我就觉得哎呀，他要做什么我就很明白，所以这就是就挺重要的，就是我后面也会讲到，就是你的 slides 啊，不单单是要对你这个领域的 expert 能够让他们明白，还需要让大家不是你这个领域的 expert 也要能够觉得非常 interesting 和 impactful。然后我就自己准备了大概10几个不同的 version 在我们的所里做一个 practice talk。这在欧洲呢是很普及的，就是你弄完以后在自己的所里讲一下，然后那些 senior 的那种 group leader 他们就给你提意见。然后在那个面试之前呢，他们会把那个 reviews comments 就是发给你。当时我是有6个 reviews comments， 有4个是比较 positive 的，然后2个比较不 positive。然后我就从那2个比较不 positive 的那个 review comments 里面猜了一下，可能那些 panel member 会问我什么问题，其中有2个还猜对了。还有一点就是你可以猜一下这个panel member， 就是他这个 panel member 是 share 的，就是说我当时是2018年去面试的，然后我就看了一下2016年我那个 panel 里面是谁是我的 panel member， 然后大概有60%到70%是 share 的，当然也会有变动，但是你从那些 panel member 的 profile 里面就能猜到，就是至少可以想象一下他们的背景，他们就是根据他们的背景他们会问你什么问题。然后面试那天呢，我是前一天到了布鲁塞尔的，然后第2天面试呢，你是得提前1个小时到，整个非常 stressful， 因为他们就让你等在那个房间里面，然后那个房间里面呢是有很多其他的那个applicant， 他们是跟你同一个 panel 的人，就是同一个那个 panel 的来面试的，然后大家都很安静，都不怎么说话，所以整个氛围特别紧张。然后到了你面试的时候呢，它有2个 screen， 一个是就就是在你背后，就一个是你的 slide， 另外就是一个倒计时，很大的一个 screen， 跟你那个 slide screen 一样大，它就不停的提醒你还有几分钟剩下。我当时呢有12个 panel member 吧，然后其中2个是主要的这个问问题的，然后另外我当时还有大概5、6个问题吧，从其他的那个 panel member 来问的，整个他们还是比较 friendly 的，整个过程还是比较 OK 的。但是这个感觉就前面在等的时候就会比较紧张，因为你就感觉他们在同一位听众里面那些 candidate 也很紧张，弄得你很紧张。
Hansong, sorry to interrupt. I need to ask you to be a little bit quick because we're running out of time. But thank you for the detailed sharing of experience.
Okay, just some personal tips. 我觉得就像那个Professor EURAXESS 说的，你也不要觉得如果没有 CNS 没有 Cell Nature Science 你就不要也不用太担心，主要还是你的 proposal 要 fit 它的 ERC 的 profile。还有一点就是在你写那个时候，他们虽然说是 high risk high gain， 你还是要 balance 这个 risk with feasibility 的，你还是要有 backup plan， 或者如果这个不 work out what will you do next。然后还是那个你写的这个东西尽量是把它弄得比较清楚明白一点，这样 reviewer， 因为他们这些 reviewer 都很忙，如果你能够把你重要的句子就是加下划线或加斜体他们就一下就能找到主要的信息。在 interview 的时候呢，我是把每一个字要说的每个字都背得很熟的，背得滚瓜烂熟的，因为不然就会很容易超过10分钟。然后你回答问题的时候呢，尽量要短一些，这样他们就可以问很多问题。还有一点就是你的 slides 必须要，刚才我说了，就是对一般性不是 expert 的人也会让他们感兴趣，因为他们每个人都会 vote 到最后，然后他们的 vote 都会 count 的。还有一点就是你要比较 excited 在你 present 你的 work 的时候。像我的时间已经到了，我就在这儿停止吧。如果大家有什么问题，可以等会儿再问我。OK。
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And Halder shared a QR code for WeChat group in the group chat. So if we were not able to answer all your questions during the webinar, you are also welcome to join the WeChat group, and we will try to reply to your questions there. And me and my colleagues will stay a bit longer in case yeah, there's a lot of questions. So without further hesitation, let me give the floor to our last but not least speaker of today, Li Deng.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Good. So I will now start to share my screen. Can you see it?
We can see it, yes.
Good. So since Han-Song has already presented a very detailed experience, so I think I will skip some of my slides. And since she has been using Chinese, I think maybe I use English so that we can cover more audience. But if you have any questions, you can always at the end ask in Chinese. So my name is Li Deng, and I'm a PI at the Helmholtz Center in Munich in Germany, and I'm also a professor at the Technical University of Munich. So I first would like to give you some background information so you can understand my application content better. So I submit my proposal ERC starting grant in October 2017, and this is the first time that I submit a ERC grant. And the title of my proposal is Bacteriophage Inhibition of Antibiotic Resistance Pathogenic Microbes and Funding for Novel Therapeutic Strategies. And I submit to the Life Science 7 panel, which is the biggest panel in life sciences, and I believe it's probably also the biggest one in all panels, and it's very competitive. As Han-Song has already mentioned, you can think about to submit to another panel, but if your topic really fit to that panel, as I finally decided that it makes sense to change to another panel, and so I decided to face the risk. And my interview was in June 2018, so about a year afterward, so it's already in the next year. And the project started actually very late in 2019 because of all the regulation of data privacy rules in the EU that changed. So I have to go through a lot of ethics applications. So I'm currently running my project about a year time. And I give you some information also about myself. So I did my bachelor in China in Tsinghua University, and then my master and PhD both in the UK, and then moved to the US for my first postdoc. After that, I moved to Germany for my second senior postdoc position, and I received a German starting grant. So it's comparable of ERC starting grant in Germany. It's also with budget of 1.5 million euro to start my independent group in the year of 2016. So it's just when I decided to write the ERC starting grant, I still have less than 1 year time that I ran my independent group. So you can still consider me almost like a postdoc stage at that time, because the major papers from my group with me as a corresponding author was not yet published at that time. And I would like to only emphasize it's very important that you have a high risk and high gain project. So don't be afraid some things are too bold. Yeah, you have to believe in yourself. When you write this proposal, you have to show that you love your project, you love your idea, and you believe in yourself that this project will be able to change the human society in the next years. You could contribute to that. So I think it's very important that you show that you are scientific excellent, and the project itself is beyond the state of the art. But as Professor Sauer has already mentioned, you have to give solid ground for that. And you have to show that you have a vision for your field. So you are not presenting what the field will stay for the next 5 years. You need to have a vision for the next 10, 20 years, even beyond that. And it's also very important for an interdisciplinary manner. I think Manuel also have already mentioned that. And for me, that so we have a combination of 3 different disciplines that that can contribute to the project at the end. And I spend a lot of time to try to think about how I can present these 3 different project ideas in the way that will convince the panel members. So this is okay that you have a high risk and it's even appreciated, but as Hansung also said that you need a plan B. So for every aims of my project, I have also a risk plan. So if the plan A doesn't work, then what is my plan B? And I think it's also quite important that you also had a look, especially if you have no experience with ERC before, then please take a look of all the succeed grantees in your field, in your panel that has published in the ERC webpage. And you can compare your ideas with their ideas. And roughly, you can also look up the CV of the PIs who got it and compare with your with your CV. And my next tip is prepare it well. So ERC grant is not something that you can write it up within a couple of weeks. I started to think about it already a year before, and you need to discuss with your peers and the leaders in your field to shape your idea and to solid your idea. I cannot emphasize more than how important it is. And also for the interviews, as Hansung also said that you need to prepare it really well, and you need to emphasize at the end only the ideas of your scientific ideas, and try to leave out all the nervousness and make it very sharp, very precise, but still interesting. My third tip is you need to look for a strong host institution. Manuel also mentioned it, and I would like to share with you my experience. So a good institute, a good host will provide you with first word of leading collaborators that you can collaborate with them, the senior scientists that you can collaborate and benefit from their existing system, for example. And a good institution always have very good and state-of-the-art instrumentations and facilities, which is not the most important thing for science, but can save a lot of time. And also you need to think about also the reputation of the host institute, especially, for example, in my institute, we have already received 37 ERCs in my institute, and all this successful experience of running ERC grant also could help you to convince the panel members that the institute can successfully support you with running a ERC project. And not only for that, and you also might look for what kind of support a grant office of this institute can provide. And in my case, Helmholtz Munich provide intensive initial consultation possibilities for those who would like to apply for ERC, and they look into your CV and they provide their suggestions whether you are already mature enough to apply for ERC, for example. And also they help you to make your financial plan, which also takes a lot of time. And all the, what Hansung mentioned, all these application steps, that if you have a good and supportive grant office can support you, it really saves you a lot of time and leave you your mind for science. And in my case, that my institute also provide on top one postdoc for 5 years and also additional funding supported. So on top of the 1.5 million, and I also received 0.5 million additional to make it altogether 2 million. And I found most important is that along the application time that we in our institute, the panel office, the grant office helped me to set up a panel member, advisory panel member, which are 3 renowned scientists in my field, that they helped me to look and to read my CVs and to listen to my interview rehearsals and asking questions. That is extremely important. And I can tell you that almost 50% of the questions that I received in Brussels that I have already received in my rehearsal time with our panel members, internal panel members. So this, I think is very important that you look for a host institute that has experience with hosting ERC grantees. And that's also naturally lead me to introduce a little bit my affiliation. I'm from Helmholtz Association, and this is the largest scientific organization in Germany. And altogether, they have 19 different institutes all over Germany, and with a total budget of more than 4.8 billion euro per year and more than 40,000 employees. And I'm in Helmholtz Center in Munich, and this is an institute that concentrate and focus on personalized medical solutions for environmental triggered disease. And among 2,800 colleagues, there are 37 ERC grantees, and we received even 4 new ERC starting grants in this year, and this is very high successful rate. And if you are thinking of to apply with a German university or institutions, please first look into the universities, have a look of their webpage. The best university in Germany are called University of Excellencies, and this including Technical University of Munich or the Munich University, Heidelberg University. You will find this information on in their webpage. And importantly, it's also to every university on the webpage, they also list their ERC grantees. Have a look how many grantees do they have. And also, like Helmholtz, there are also very big governmental institutions in Germany, like Max Planck, like Leibniz, Fraunhofer associations. They all are very good institutions with good reputations.
Lee, I am sorry to interrupt you. I know you all have a lot to share, and it's very interesting to hear from you, but we are really running out of time. So if you can conclude quickly, we will have at least a few minutes to
Sure. Yeah. So the very last point is don't be afraid and go for it. That is for your future. The ERC grant is very highly appreciated by many EU countries, universities, and I see it more and more has been considered as a common standard to compare scientists from different countries. And it's used very often for example, to promote professors. So please think about it, work on it, and go for it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to all the speakers. All of them had like very interesting insights and experience to share. But let's quickly move to the Q&A session. Me and my colleagues will stay longer, but I guess our speakers will have to leave. So in case, redirect our questions to us, and in case, we will forward them to them. So first of all, let's start with Daijun Liu, because he asked to ask a question directly to one of the speakers. Already unmuted, so please go ahead if you're still with us.
Okay, thank you, Anna. So I have a question for Wei. So I have a question about we want to collaborate with all of this kind of the PI with other countries. Should we also avoid the publication or this collaboration with the supervisor from the PhD? or this is because the ERC maybe they want to check whether we have the independent research from the past supervisor. So whether it does matter for this, we try to avoid or try to still collaborate with the PhD supervisor. Thank you.
That's an important question. My general advice would be not to do it. It's very, very difficult. I'm not saying it cannot happen, but you have to be extremely careful in making a point how you stay independent. I advise to all of my PhD students when they leave not to collaborate with me. And even when I help, I'm not going on the papers, just because I know how much it damages them. So there might be constellations when there is an instrument in that lab and that is not so crucial. I mean, it's important for one step, but that it's very clear that you still have the lead, but just be very careful.
So if we apply the ERC study grant, so do you think at least several papers is more safe, or title more papers without the PhD supervisor, do you think is better? That means?
I'm not sure I understand 100%. So you're applying yourself.
Just like the publication. So that means we have to try to less this kind of publication with the supervisor from the PhD. So whether like 2 or 3 or have the papers that without the PhD supervisor, do you think it's better?
Well, you can't change your papers, right? And we all want you to be successful in your PhD. And so that's perfectly okay. It's only after your PhD, when you're a postdoc and you all, then you have a new mentor or supervisor. We want you to be successful in different, that's what gives us confidence that you can be successful in the future too, if you've been successful in different places. But if you stay, for example, for PhD and postdoc in the same lab, always with the same leader, very difficult for us to judge what is you, what's your originality. And so the more you don't have to move to many different places, but no, one would like to see success in 2 or 3 places.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But don't take any papers away. It's great if you were successful. I think your important question was about the future. And one you always have to keep in mind, it needs to be crystal clear to a mixed group of scientists how you are independent and not still dependent on some very big professor that might have been in the background. Yeah?
Okay, very helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks. So I'll share my screen to join the QR code of the WeChat group once again in a second. But I will like to move to one of the next questions that we actually received at the beginning of the webinar. Is someone who is asking, what are the extra suggestions to European-based Chinese researchers? So maybe Li Deng or Han Song would like to give any advice on this. They're asking, should she or he stress the Chinese background they have?
I think for natural science, it's very different from social science. At least I think from Manuel's experience, it's very important to stress his experience with Chinese and collaborations. And in natural science, I don't see really the importance for that. And Han-Song, what do you think?
I agree with that. I don't really see the point of mentioning your background. I presume they can probably tell, unless your research have some kind of connectivity to the Chinese community.
Exactly. If you use like Chinese cohort, which are very specific for certain disease, then for sure, please mention it. If not, it's a general topic. You always have to think, if you are the reviewers, put yourself into the shoes of the reviewers. What do they think? What is the most important thing?
Okay, I see. We also see a sign of approval from Uwe. So thanks for taking this question. Okay, quickly, I guess also because one of our ERC grantees based in the UK, someone is asking if it's possible to apply for ERC grants and conduct them in the UK. And I think the question is not going to be possible from 2021, or it's not going to be possible until the UK and the European Commission will find an agreement to work on Horizon Europe and on joint grants. But I think for the moment it's not an opportunity anymore until you already applied and won a grant.
For the deadlines until 2021, the deadlines in January still belong to Horizon 2020. So I think that they still can apply for that one last deadline. I don't know if Uwe knows better, but I'm pretty sure, just like with Marie Curie, this last deadline of Horizon 2020 are still applicable for UK.
Good point. Thank you for specifying that. Right.
Because they're not supposed to be in January. They're just like delayed a little bit.
As we are running out of, we're like a little bit late with the publishing of the course. I think, you must be right, Halder.
I will make sure to put it into the WeChat group for sure, 100%, the correct answer to this one, just so in case it's not so we're absolutely right about that. I think this is the correct answer.
Okay, Shuebao is asking, I guess I am a postdoc here in the EU and I have no principal investigator title and experience of leading a research team. Can I apply for a ERC starting grant? Someone wants to take this?
I think Professor Uwe already mentioned that you can. So initially I wanted to apply for an ERC grant when I was in the last year of my postdoc training. But some senior group leaders here advised me to, because at the time I've already secured a Wellcome Trust grant. So the senior group leaders suggested that I leave a gap year between two major grants. And that's the only reason that I applied after I had my own group. Otherwise, I would have applied in the last year of my postdoc.
Thanks.
Absolutely correct. You can apply.
Good. So the answer is yes. We are already a little bit after the time of the end of the webinar. So if any one of you speakers need to leave, please just tell us. Otherwise, maybe we continue with a few more minutes, if it's fine. Okay. We received a question about the financial budget and how it should be justified in the proposal. One of the three ERC grantee would like to take this.
Yes, I can say something on this. Again, it is very important that the financial proposal is well specified in detail. Of course, you have later a little chance to adjust it a little bit when you sign, which is actually, we haven't spoken much about it, the financial agreement, because once you get successful in your project, you will sign the grant agreement with the host institution, which means that if there is some, that's why it is very important what Liam mentioned about choosing the host institution, because if there is some little, well, I would not say frictions, but difficulties, because you need to make sure that you have a proper facilities, infrastructure, and of course, an easy way to work with the administration of the university. So you can always change of institution. You have that is also something very important. And according to this, it is important also, again, to adjust and justify well the financial agreement according to the milestones and preliminary results you foresee to achieve every year. So that is also something really important. Of course, also very important to prepare a backup plan or contingency plan, but there would be many issues that, I mean, in this budget, like I would say for open access, or if you are developing a database, like in my case, that you need to adjust the budget, that also could be made. But of course, you need, if that is the case, over time, you need to justify that change within different amendments to your officer in Brussels, and they will make the decision whether or not this is possible. But the most important thing at the beginning, make the whole plan believable. Actually, you know, that is for, according to my experience. So you need to, again, to have that vision for 5 years on how you will use the budget and in which items you will expend it.
Thank you for taking this question, Manuel. Okay, let's continue. Someone is asking about the deadline for the starting grants. You find all this information on the ERC website. This year, the deadline, I mean, for the next call, the deadline is going to be the 9th of March, 2021. So yeah, you have a couple of months to submit and you should start preparing now if you're thinking to apply. Davide was asking, is it possible or advisable to submit again revised versions of projects that were previously rejected? Or if a project application is rejected, is it better to focus on new ideas? What do you think? So, anyone? Sorry, I didn't direct the question to any of the speakers. I'm not sure if Uwe wants to take it. Manuel, you want to take this one as well?
Yeah, I mean, I can say something. Of course, Uwe as a panelist would have a more accurate or more interesting for our presenters. But well, actually, you know, to be honest, when I presented my ERC project, it was the first shot I give it. So, and I got it, but before applying to the ERC, I was also the preliminary ideas for this project I presented for a Marie Curie, which I didn't get it. So, of course, I think it would be advisable to work over your project. I mean, you don't necessarily need to make a new one. The most important thing is to identify the weaknesses and improve it. Again, as I mentioned, I didn't got a Marie Curie in 2013, 2012 when I applied, but when I applied first to the ERC in it was in 2015, so I give it the first shot. So I think, in my opinion, would be possible and advisable to do work on reviews, but I don't know if you has a different take.
I thought the question was more if an ERC grant was rejected. And so the first, if the ERC grant is rejected, that it comes in two categories. If it was not good, you have to pause for a year. The ERC will tell you, you cannot come back for a year. And then I think in some cases, even for 2 years. And there are other cases when it's a good one. It just didn't make the cut, in which case you can come in the next round. If there's no reason not to use the same idea, unless it was already in the reviews, it tells you it was not at the level of what one would see for an ERC or not. It depends on what the reasons were. But if the research as such is interesting, an important question, and you were rejected because you just didn't make the cut, then yeah, take the reviewer's input and try better next time.
Thank you to both of you. I'm going to continue with someone who's asking, could my colleague and I apply to this grant together? Does ERC accept co-applicants? Maybe I'll quickly reply. For like the consolidator and the advanced grants, you apply by yourself. You're one researcher with one idea, apply in conjunction with the host institution. So you cannot apply with your colleague. The only grant that allows that is the synergy grant. That allows a team of 2 or up to 4 people to apply together. Someone else was asking, was saying, I am a PhD student in China. Can I apply? No, you cannot apply, because if you see the requirements, the grants are offered to those with some years of experience, starting from 2 years of experience after concluding your PhD. So it's good that you're already thinking of that. You can prepare well, but you cannot apply at the moment. Okay, I have another question here. Where do we obtain information on how many applicants typically apply to a given review panel? And therefore the question is, how competitive is any particular panel? I'm not sure if anyone here is able to reply to this question. It's very specific.
I think the answer is very simple. The competitiveness is the same all over the place because it always depends on the past year. The percentage of success is not different in the different panels. It's just that in some panels, like the LS7 tends to collect a lot of grants, and so they grant also more. The success rate is the same because it depends on the grant. The amount that is granted to a given panel depends on the number of applicants. But of course, it's more work. You can imagine if there's a panel of 15 people that have to look at 300 applications as compared to a panel of 15 that has to look only at 100 or so. They have much less work. They might be easier for them. Maybe they're in a better mood. I don't know. But the competitiveness is the same. And I think the numbers are, you can look up, for example, the old panel members of the last years, never the actual one, but of the previous years. There is a website, I forgot where it is, but the ERC publishes that. And I think the ERC also publishes the number of applications, but that I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is on the webpage of ERC, they publish the statistics from last year's call and result. So each panel has a successful rate and how many grants that they received and how many were successful.
This also depends on who you are competing with, right? So if you look at the profile of the previous ERC grantees from that panel, you can tell how many Nature Cell Science papers they have or what kind of background they have. That might help you to kind of also guess how
that's very important. It's very important. So look at the old panel members, and you have to Google them because there's only names, but try to think, especially when your project is interdisciplinary, that's what the ERC also would like to see. You need to look at a panel that has a good chance to, where your project has the good chance to find also reviewers that find it. So for example, in Li Deng's project, this is a more medically oriented panel and application oriented. But if you want to do something more, whether you have a more deeper science part that is not so much on the application, you might want to think of going somewhere else. But if your project is application, that's where you have to go. That's absolutely clear. And maybe get some advice from someone who has been in these panels. I mean, some of these people, you can just write them an email and just ask specific questions. In the worst case, you get no answer.
Right, and we are also here to help. Maybe we don't have the competences of other experts in Brussels or the national contact points, but we're happy to redirect your questions and happy to help you identify to whom to ask your question if you have any. So please reach us if you're thinking of applying for the grants that are opening up in 2021. I think there is a special interest in biology among our participants because we have a couple of questions asking if there's any particular interest in biology, and someone else asking again about the biology panel if non-peer-reviewed papers are viewed positively. And well, in terms of biology or any other field, let me add that no, there's no specific interest in biology. I think the ERC is interested in receiving applications from bright minds, from researchers who have innovative, groundbreaking ideas that they want to present. And that is in any field. There is no specific and predetermined field of research in humanities or in sciences that is defined. So the approach is bottom up. You think you have a great idea, you can submit it. There is no specific interest in biology or any other field unless it's something that is that is maybe already funded by another grant that is like on the same topic. What about not peer-reviewed papers? Anyone?
I can answer that. It's better than just saying manuscript in preparation, which really doesn't matter at all, because you prepared something, so it's good in that sense, but it doesn't help. The CV needs to be convincing still. The CV needs to be convincing on the basis of published work, and there's different levels. So for a starter, one expects a little bit less, of course. Certainly one expects less senior author papers. As I said before, we have postdocs applicants that obviously have only first author papers, so they cannot possibly have yet senior author papers. And that's okay, because for a starting grant, you expect that. Of course, you're competing also with some that are already PI for a short time and they have senior author papers, that helps, but it is not absolutely mandatory. And for consolidators, you have to show something. But the bioarchivics papers where you can already submit something and it's publicly available, it helps if it's something, because it demonstrates, for example, that if it's something critical for a technique or an instrument or something, that or a strain or something that is important for your proposal, it certainly helps. It's not frowned upon.
Thank you for this. We have Ho that is asking for suggestions in terms of how much time does I think the application to become principal investigators take. So he is asking at what point in time before the submission of the proposal he should start preparing. One of our ERC grantee who already applied successfully would like to share his or her experience. When did you start thinking and preparing your application?
Well, as I mentioned in my slides, that I start thinking the ideas and also start reading in May and then April and May, and then spend the entire July and August writing the whole proposal, doing nothing else, just writing. And then the submission date is mid-October. So I actually had a 6 weeks between, finished writing and then also the submission date. So what I did is I left basically 2 weeks doing nothing, focusing on something else, and then read everything again after this 2 weeks gap. And having a little time between also gives, if you want other people to read your, proposal and give you some feedback, it also gives people time. But for me, it took me entire 2 months just writing that 15 pages.
Thank you. I see we are also receiving some pretty detailed questions, and someone is asking if it's possible to share proposals that were funded, or if it's possible to find them online. And in general, the question is about sharing more details about how you successfully get funded by the ERC. What was your strong points? How do you get funded? Is any one of you would like to share something else that you didn't already say during your earlier presentation?
So what I did, I just emailed to people specifically and asking for advice, and then ask whether it's possible to share their application with me. And after getting my ERC, I actually got a few emails from people that I don't know at all, and they're mainly based outside of UK, asking me whether I'm happy to share my application, and I did. So I then get to email to people specifically and get their authorization, and there will be people who are willing to share their application and advice. You just have to email, as Professor Sauer was saying, the worst answer is they don't reply. You're not losing anything.
Yeah, you can have a look of the web page that the ERC published, at least the summary of all the awarded grants. So you can already have a look of all these titles and summaries and look for those that are most relevant to your topic, and then ask by email.
Thank you to both of you. So let's take this very last question we just received before closing the webinar. Is regarding the publications. Someone was asking also earlier, I believe, the first author and the corresponding author, which one is the most important? Who can say about it?
Anything is
this
important.
Is the
that's
most
not
important
in the
questions. It come back again and again.
So it's very, very clear. Firstly, you don't want to be in the middle. And if you're a starter and more on the postdoc level, the first author is what matters. But if you're a consolidator, you have to be senior author, and senior is last. That's the person that, because you need to direct a team. That's probably the most important step in a scientific career, to learn to work through others. You need to be able to devise projects and lead people to be successful so that they're first authors. That's what consolidating is all about. And as I said, for starters, this is a little bit less critical that you have last author papers. But as a consolidator without a last author, with several last author papers, chances are very low. This may be a little bit different, Manuel, in the social sciences and history, because that field operates different. I'm talking about natural science here, maybe.
Yeah, no, but also for, I mean, at least according to my experience, it is what you say, it is very important and applicable, because, you know, being the first author, because for social science and humanities, for the case of the starting grant, as you well mentioned, the most important thing is that at least your PhD is in process to be published. Of course, you've been as a first author. And again, one or two, I would not say, because many people expected like 5, 6 SSCA paper or something. No, I would say like 1 or 2, or maybe 1, but in a very, very top journal. I was talking about the Economic History Journal or the Journal of Global History, something like that. But as you very well mentioned, and actually this is very important to stress, even though the starting grant could be also second author, but the most important thing is that they are capable to lead a team and actually to become leaders in their field, to manage a proper team. So that is also very important. And actually, you know, that detail, I would say it enrich your application when you made, how will you pick up the team? And how many postdocs, how many research assistants or PhD researchers, and make work packages. Because again, a good proposal is really cool and bright, but the most important thing is that potential good leaders should be very well surrounded with good people. So I think that that is also, again, maybe not directly with the publication, but also it is an important detail to take into account, because again, when it comes to publication, it comes to be an independent researcher, and that is something super important, because at least I also know for my field that many PhDs, even postdoc, they are working, they're still working for the advisors, and they're just simply collecting data like, you know, in the ERCS, but not doing any critical research or thinking. So very important also for social sciences and humanities.
Okay, thank you. I hope this was clarifying for everybody who is present here today. It has been great. He has been going on for a little bit longer than expected, but I think our speakers had a lot to share, and our participants had a lot of questions, which are still coming in. So I'm going to close the webinar here, but I'm going to tell you again that all your questions are welcome in the WeChat group or by email to us, or you see our speakers, both evaluator but also ERC grantees, were very friendly. So I guess they will be happy to reply to your email also if you direct them to them. And thank you very much. A very, very big thank you to our 4 speakers today. It was really great added value for us today to have you here. And thank you for all who decided to participate and to join us today.